What's up, guys? I'm here with co-founder of Advanced Vitality, Jason Theobald. Jason is what I'll call the brains behind the operation.
We're in trouble.
Yeah. The knowledge behind the operation. Jason's been in health and fitness for a really, really long time, and his knowledge is super deep. So today we're going to talk about GLPs. And specifically, we're going to break apart some myths maybe about GLPs, start to understand the different ranges that are out there now, because now we have three different types of GLPs.
Yeah.
Understand the different ranges that we have, and then how we can best utilize those to make it a sustainable part of our journey instead of how it's currently used, I would say, in general practice. Maybe not so sustainable. But I think before we jump into that part of it, why do you think that GLPs are, there's plenty of people that want to get on them for sure, but there's also a lot of grief out there that they catch. Why do you think that that's happening?
Well, I think, there's a lot of different reasons.
For sure.
Number one, if you go to, say your medical doctor and get these drugs, they come in preloaded pens. And the doses are pretty high to start. And so immediately by taking such a big dose, not only do I see more side effects faster, cramping, unable
Negative
to eat,
side effects.
unable to eat, cramping, potential diarrhea, constipation, with all those effects, I think that gets out into the media and that gets perpetuated, but it's because number one, the high dosing. Number two, when those doses are given at that level, people don't eat, and you need to eat with these medications.
Something.
Yeah. You actually want to eat, not starve yourself. But what happens
Which seems counterintuitive to a degree.
Right. But we'll talk about how it improves the metabolic processes, which allow you then to eat. So you're going to actually lose weight with food coming into your body, which is what you want and should have been happening in the first place. But you're taking this medication because you probably have some sort of issue metabolically that this is going to fix. But what happens is people don't change their lifestyle. And you should be doing that. You should be weight training to hold muscle, getting movement, and getting proper protein in, getting your diet changed. These should be really a kind of a jump off or a leap frog into a healthy lifestyle. Okay. What people do is they get them, the doses are already high, they're not hungry, they eat 500 calories or less. And what happens is when you eat it that much, now people in the media will say, well, you lose muscle with it. Well, if I sat here and ate only 500 calories a day, I'd lose muscle whether I was taking GLP-1 or not. And then, you'll see, well, my hair's thinning. Well, again, 500 calories, you're not getting enough nutrients and micronutrients that you need for that. So women's hair starts to thin. So they're being used or abused, really, is the problem. These should be done at a smaller micro dose, which we can do at our clinic because we can use a compound and formula in a vial and we can microdose the amount rather than whole done in a pen. And then we obviously counsel on, hey, let's change your habits. Let's use this as a leapfrog into a good lifestyle rather than just, hey, I'm going to sit around and do the same thing I usually do. I'm still going to eat terrible, but I'm going to just eat less of my terrible 500 calories. And then when I remove the medication, I go right back to my terrible eating habits. Not only did I lose muscle because I didn't weight train and I ate 500 calories, now your BMI is worse. So your BMI, you literally are sitting here less efficient than you should be because you've lost muscle. When you lose muscle, you don't burn as much fat or calories at rest. The more muscle you have on your body, the more you burn at rest.
Metabolic rate's up.
So now they got a poorer metabolic rate. They go back to their terrible diet, and now they gain more fat back than they did, and they blame it on the medication. That's where we're at with them today in the media. People that are in the know and watch our sites and watch, maybe people that aren't
like-minded.
They're going to understand how to use these. But the general public is going to go to their doctor, get these, and not change a thing.
Sure. I look at it as the same story over and over again. If you look at any weight loss intervention that has happened almost ever, whether that's been surgeries, whether that's been other drugs or supplements and things like that, the same similar effect happens. Lose all your weight super quick, and then rebound happens, and then people blame
Mhm.
the thing.
Yep.
Whereas now I'm not condoning like the surgeries and stuff. You can argue whether or not people needed as many of those that happened, but that is what it is. But I believe in this case, and I will fully admit, like, up until I joined Advanced Vitality, I was always the person that was like, you can do this on your own. Like, you can do this. You don't need drugs. You don't need this. You don't need that. And in my mind, as admittedly an unknowledgeable person, ignorant to what a GLP really was, glucagon-like peptide really was, I'm like, you don't really need that. You just need to be, this is what you need. You just need a healthy lifestyle, which is what we're talking about.
Yep.
And we'll pull this all together. But like my own ignorance in understanding what it was probably, didn't help potentially a lot of people because there's much more to these things than just weight loss.
Correct. There are a lot of people who they're trying to eat healthy and do the right things, and their body is still not working. And we see this a lot in menopausal women. We see this a lot in people with hormone dysfunction. We see this a lot in people with tons of stress on them. And we can talk about the mechanisms of what these drugs do to help overcome that to get you starting to see results. Then you can dig in. It's like, think about it. If someone has high cortisol, poor hormones, and they're trying to lose weight, it's not going to work really well. So they're going to get frustrated and stop. This helps counterbalance and counteract those things going on metabolically to allow your program to work. And now you're like, oh, I'm getting results. I can stick to this. So there are many of people who come to us who are like, hey, I'm doing the right stuff. It's not working. What's wrong with my body? And I think that's what we got to educate on. What are these actually doing? It's not just that these are telling you not to eat. It goes way deeper than that on a metabolic level of what these are doing to improve you from an efficiency standpoint, turning back years to putting your metabolism like it was in your 20s. And we can talk about those things that have happened to people that make it slow.
Cool. So let's go down that rabbit hole because, like I said, my understanding before I got here was much different than when I got here and started to actually allow myself to understand what these things really are and what was really going on. Actually, I remember specifically when we were at the retreat and you were talking about it, and I let my mind just like, okay, I just need to listen. I just need to be open. I need to understand what this is so that I can know how to effectively deal with this. Because that was a hard thing for me coming here. Like as a person, I'm like, this is something I believe. I believe people should be able to do this on their own. They don't need this. They don't need that. But understanding that GLP is not a drug, not a medication, it is a peptide was very important for me because a peptide and a medication are two different things. And then understanding that there is more to the mechanism than just suppressing someone's appetite and getting them to eat less. So what is a GLP?
Yeah, so glucagon-like peptide. It's made naturally in the intestines and the stomach. And as life goes on and we have stressors, we have all these things that affect, we have glyphosates in our food, we have toxins, we have plastics, all of our metabolic processes start to slow. And someone like yourself who works out, eats healthy, you're hit way less than someone who hasn't done that and built that base. So they have all this building up in their body. So their processes are slowing down. And so when they do try to take on a healthy lifestyle, it's not working. Okay. So glucagon-like peptides, yes, it does slow down food through your intestines. That's why if you take too much, it can cause constipation and all these bad things you hear, right? And if you don't take on a healthy lifestyle with it, you got to keep up in the dose. And that's when people get into, oh, I can't go to the bathroom. My stomach's not working. There's paralysis to my belly. Well, yeah, if you're taking 15 mgs of a GLP-1, yeah, that could happen.
That's going to happen.
But what's the benefit of it slowing food transit down is that you don't have as big of insulin spikes after you eat. Okay. And high insulin spikes are going to kick you out of fat loss, right? So now we're controlling insulin a little better. Also, glucagon-like peptide, it has a huge effect on glucagon. And so this is where we get into understanding cortisol and what our bodies do. So let's say you got Susie soccer mom. She's got 4 kids. She's got her own, job. She's got a husband who's needy, and she can't lose weight, and she's doing the right things. Well, when cortisol is elevated and stress is up, we signal glucagon, we signal norepinephrine. Norepinephrine tells glucagon to then signal and dump sugars from the liver so we can run from the tiger. That's how we were built, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have something that hits us, flight or fight. It's got to respond. Mm-hmm. We need sugars instantly to get away from it, and then we burn it up by getting away from it. Well, in today's lifestyle, that doesn't happen. Susie soccer mom gets up. She's got 4 kids wanting to eat. She's got to rush them to the bus or either drive them to school, sit in traffic, get to her office, and then immediately the boss wants this, this, and this. Well, she's never ran or done anything to burn off that sugar. It's just now circulating. And let's say she started her day with just a Danish and a coffee, which she already added sugar in. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now she's got the glucagon signaling telling liver, dump, 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 because her cortisol is continually being pumped all day, mm-hmm. right? Well, when that's in that bloodstream, it causes inflammation. Okay. So now we've got trouble in other organs, other systems of the body, because the body's systemically inflamed. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we need to push out insulin all day to try to shuttle it back into the muscle because we're not burning it. So I told you earlier, when your insulin signaling, you can't burn fat. Mm-hmm. So now you are eating some food because you've read online, I need to get my protein, I need to get my good food. Well, you've already got sugars dumped in your body constantly. Now you're giving it more, thinking I'm doing the right things. So the best solution obviously is not to have her kids asking her for doing things and her boss needing, but that's not life, right? Mm. So, when I work with clients, yes, we talk about how can we mitigate your stress a bit, right? How can we help? Like maybe it's meditation, maybe it's massage, maybe it's a walk in the morning and get up before your kids. And we can start those habits. But these medications or peptides can start to help immediately because with that glucagon, I'm getting somewhere with this, but I wanted to paint a picture. Mm. Once we have that glucagon blunted, okay, and remember and I don't know if I told you, but when glucagon is signaling, insulin is somewhat blunted. Okay. So your body's trying to release it to get rid of those sugars, but it's not doing a great job because the glucagon stays up because they want you to not put it back in the muscle cell. The body wants you to use it to run from the tiger, right? So it blunts insulin a little bit. I'm not saying it doesn't let it release at all, but it blunts it. Glucagon's up here, dump, dump, dump. We really need that insulin to get out. The glucagon-like peptide brings the glucagon down. So now your insulin can release and bring that sugar back out of the bloodstream. Well, what happens? Inflammation goes down. Neuroinflammation goes down because you get it in here too. That's why they get brain fog. So now they're thinking better. Now they've got the sugars back into the muscle cell. And now the healthy diet and nutrients that they're giving it can actually do what it does. The insulin now is firing every time you eat perfectly because we've got glucagon controlled. Now we're doing things in the background to help that stress, but we have a peptide that's overcoming it right now. So yes, if I could perfect world, take her to an island and have her chill out, the stress would eventually come down and the body would start working. We don't have all of that, unfortunately. Yep. So we're allowing this process to get back to healthy while we do still talk about those things at the clinic or if I'm working with someone in my nutrition company. But we have to understand that process is going on, and that's why these work so well. So yes, they do blunt hunger. And when your body's out working properly, GLP-1 is released and we have we eat and we're not as hungry. When people are dysfunctioned, it's not releasing properly and they're constantly hungry. There's people out there that are constantly hungry, always. I see it in my competitors. Women do a few shows and then they're ghrelin, their leptin gets off, their GLP-1 signaling's off, and they're like bottomless pits. And they're constantly crabby because they know they can't eat all that food, but they want to eat. So these things start bringing these processes back into a place where things now work better. So that's what's going on. And, we can get into the different levels because, a GLP-1 is the semaglutide. And, it's first gen. There's going to be, even at a microdose, there's going to be more side effects, but it is the cheapest one. And then we get into tirzepatide and retatrutide. So I'll stop there because I've been talking for a while, but that's, some of the other things they do: neuroinflammation, body inflammation, signaling, bringing glucagon down, allowing our insulin to time up at a proper time. So those are a lot of processes other than just, they tell you not to eat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those were some of the things that really opened my eyes when you were talking about that at the retreat, as I was doing my own research, as I was listening to the clinicians and listening to how they talk about it. Some of the things that opened my eyes because, I had the fitness studio for 10 years and of course, that's most people's goal. Our average demographic is between 45 and 60. So what are they coming for? They want to lose weight. They want to look better. They want to gain a little muscle. They want to feel better. They want to move better. They want to do all those things. And we would accomplish a lot of them. We'd help them move better. We'd maybe help them gain a little bit of muscle. But a lot of them had a hard time losing weight. Now, to be fair, a lot of them also didn't do maybe a lot of the things outside as well as maybe they could have. But again, life is life. So there were a ton of people that were working hard, putting in, eating better, making those changes, and they would just kind of stay, just kind of stay. They were healthier for sure,
100%.
but as far as their physical body
composition just wasn't moving,
wasn't changing. So that was one thing that really opened my eyes whenever I heard you talking about that, about really a lot of what this is doing is retraining the body. It's retraining the body to do what it's supposed to do.
Correct.
Because for so many years, because if they're coming at 45, if they're showing up at 45, that means for 45 years, they've been, and maybe it hasn't been, maybe it's only been 20, but 20 years is a lot of years of compounding stress and eating bad and moving bad and so on and so forth and dysfunctional this and dysfunctional that, on and on and on. And that's hard for somebody to really understand and so on. So that was a big breakthrough for me. But so yes, there are 3 GLPs. We have semaglutide. That was the first groundbreaking one, I guess.
Called Gen 1, I guess.
Gen 1 is a good way to put it. Tirzepatide. And then now we have retatrutide, which is not a lot of people who are listening to this maybe haven't even heard of that one because it's pretty new. So what are the differences between the two? What makes each one different?
So semaglutide is just GLP-1. Okay. The main thing to remember is it's going to slow gastric emptying. It is going to have an effect on glucagon, which then will allow insulin to signal better. Okay. And time up properly with eating, clear out, the blood sugars and all that good stuff. Obviously, we haven't said this, but obviously this then in turn brings down A1C. This brings down fasted insulin and fasted blood glucose. A1C and fasted insulin rising is very common in the 40 plus because as cortisol rises and stress builds, inflammation mounts, and when inflammation's up, your A1C usually rises because you've lost insulin sensitivity. So it's sometimes chicken and the egg. Was it inflammation that got you? Was it insulin sensitivity that went bad and then inflammation went up? They kind of can go either direction, but you're usually going to have both at the same time. You're going to be hard pressed to find someone with a 6 on the A1C who doesn't also have a CRP that's affected, which is an inflammatory marker or some inflammatory marker that's up. So GLP-1, and then you've got your GLP-1 comboed with a GIP,
which is
gastrointestinal polypeptide, something like that, GIP. And so what that does, that actually helps improve our insulin sensitivity. So now we have insulin signaling properly, and now we've added an agonist that tells the cells to be more sensitive and unlock the cell key, because that's what insulin does. Insulin is like a key to your cell membrane. If this is a cell and my cells are really insulin sensitive, as soon as that insulin touches it, the cell opens up. There's something called GLUT4 that translocates up, and then that takes the glycogen and brings it into the cell, right? Well, when you start to lose sensitivity, the lock doesn't work as well, right? So the sugars just stay out here, right? So GIP helps that process. So now not only do we have proper signaling, now we're getting better insulin sensitivity. Now tirzepatide really starts to work. GLP-1 works okay. And again, it's going to be your cheapest option, but GLP-1 is going to come with more side effects, even at a lower dose.
Why so? Why more?
Because GLP-1 has more effect on the stomach in terms of slowing transit So if that's all you're taking, you're getting a big dose of like slowing transit, stopping hunger.
That makes sense.
So if I have someone who's like just a bottomless pit and they have eating issues, GLP-1 might be the one you want to go with. If you have a bodybuilder or someone who's a physique enthusiast who's in pretty good shape, but they're losing sensitivity, you see they have an high A1C, maybe from inflammation, stress, you want to go more with your Terzas or your Retas.
Got it.
Because you want them to eat and you want them to get it. But someone who's, struggling with, really bad choices
Saying no
and
to food.
having 4,000 calories a day, we want that blunted because GLP-1s, we haven't talked about it, but they help addiction. Like people with cigarette addiction have been able to get off of it.
Really?
Alcohol, you don't want alcohol on it. I've seen many people who are struggling to get rid of the wine habit. Started GLP-1, they don't want it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that person may be good with semaglutide. More dysfunction and maybe 20 to 30 pounds, you're looking more probably at your terzepatides and your Retas, in my opinion. So yes, Terz is GLP-1 and GIP. Okay. Retatrutide, which right now you may or may not have heard of it, but it has not been approved yet by FDA. We think it will get approval by end of 2026, maybe even sooner. There's some people saying sooner, but I just don't think they move quick there. It's a bureaucracy.
Oh yeah.
So at the moment, at the clinic, we haven't been offering it. If someone finds it online, that's up to them what they want to do, right?
Yep.
But the Reta is really cool in that it's a GLP-1, it's a GIP, and then they add a glucagon agonist. So the glucagon agonist, we want to control glucagon, like we don't want it signaling all the time, but that glucagon agonist actually, in the right amount of glucagon, you're going to burn more fat as a preferred source. There's more fat oxidation coming from the liver. So literally it creates almost an exercise mimetic. As we would be sitting here, if you're taking retatrutide, you're going to be oxidizing fat faster. If I'm on it and you're not, I'm going to sit here and burn more fat than you just having this conversation. Don't have to do a thing. Now, we don't advise that. We advise a good habit. We advise microdosing. We advise eating right. And then let that enhance your program. Let that take your program from, if I did this, I get 1x results. Now I'm getting 2x. So all my habits are amplified times 2. And it can do that. I mean, it really can. So that glucagon is added. And what that's doing also is by choosing to burn more fat, you're not burning your amino acids and glycogen as much. So you're not tapping into muscle. So by adding that, they've almost made it foolproof in that you're not going to burn muscle tissue where you could with the other two. And so it's a really, really nice mousetrap. It's just at the moment we're waiting on FDA approval. But, Reta is going to come with the least amount of hunger suppression, right? Because now it's in a medication, you've got thirds, right? A third of it's GLP-1, a third of it's GIP, a third of it's glucagon. In terzepatide, half is GLP-1, half is GIP. So sema, most appetite suppression. People with a food addiction, really, any addiction can really benefit on that. The middle one, not as much food noise suppression. If you already aren't a big eater, probably shouldn't be on sema because again, we need you to eat. So Terz is probably your thing. Reta, athletes love it because you get in a little microdose. They can still eat their 3,000 calories, and now they are a metabolically efficient
monster.
Machine.
Yeah.
You can snap on muscle fast and stay lean. It's pretty wild. Soon, there's going to be something called bioglutide. I don't know if it'll ever get FDA approval, but it's going to put IGF-1 and agonist in it. And IFG-1 pushes anabolism. So literally muscle
growth at that point.
Yeah. Now, I don't know, like I said, if it'll ever get approval, but these will definitely be on the peptide UGL market. I don't know that we'll ever have it at the
clinic.
Yeah. So we won't spend any time on it today, but I mean, these medications are going to continue to evolve is my point. So that's kind of the differences of the three.
And I think now is an important time to point out how this is different than a drug.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already talked about how these are peptides.
Yeah, we can
and
talk.
so on and so forth. Just to go back to the basic.
So
how
a
is that different
peptide
than a drug?
A peptide is a certain amount of amino acid bonds together to build a signal that tells an organ or a system of the body to do something. There's almost a peptide for everything now. And we'll have other episodes where we talk about all the other cool peptides we have that push healing and skin repair and all these things. But these are either it's like the GLP-1, it's saying, hey, let's turn down that glucagon knob. Let's slow down the processing of food a little bit, so insulin isn't spiking so high. GIP is sending a signal to improve insulin sensitivity into the cells and the tissue of the body. So they are signalers naturally occurring in the body that scientists have been able to basically extrapolate and build these amino acid bonds again to then be put in the body and send those same signals. So these are all things that are found within our body.
Again, another mind-opening point for me. I understood general peptides, this, that, and the other thing, but until you understand that a peptide is already something that your body has, and these things are just signaling your body to do the thing that peptide is already doing in your body. It's just signaling it to do it more effectively, more efficiently,
correct,
better again, or whatever.
Yes, correct. I mean, we're not really on tesamorelin, but tesamorelin will tell the pituitary just to dump the HGH you already have stored. And for whatever reason, our pituitary stores an insane amount of growth hormone that never gets released. It's one of nature's weird
goofy
tricks.
things.
Yeah. So the tesamorelin just literally says, signal, drop it, release it. And so every time you hit yourself a little tesamorelin, the pituitary is sending out that GH that it already has, rather than taking exogenous where you could shut down your own
production.
Yeah,
for sure. So let's back up a little bit. You said that in the very beginning of this, if you want this to be sustainable, if you want the changes that you make with these GLPs to be sustainable, you have to still eat, and you have to still make changes. Because what I would argue 90% of people who are on them are doing is not making any changes.
Nope.
Or small changes, if anything. And those changes are mostly coming from suppression.
Yeah, just eating the same bad
junk,
food, just
less of it.
Yeah, 500 calories is what a lot of them do.
So why is it that you have to still eat and exercise and make these changes, which we kind of hit on, but just to kind of put a bow on it. And then what are some of just kind of those basic changes that need to make it most sustainable?
I think you need to understand that muscle tissue is calorically expensive. Okay. So the leaner I am and the more my body is muscle, I'm going to take in food and I am going to burn through that because my body needs it to maintain that muscle. So if you take these, and here's a typical Sally soccer mom who takes this and doesn't get the education that we can offer. She'll get up, she'll have a coffee. That further suppresses hunger. Not only that, it spikes cortisol. So it's counteracting what you're taking the medication for. Goes about her day. Then at 2, she probably hits Starbucks again. Maybe gets a latte. There's a little bit of calories from the almond milk.
It's coffee with.
Now your belly's filled again, so you're still not hungry. And maybe at night, has a salad. 400 calories. There's no micronutrients. There's nothing. There's a lot of water in the salad. And they go about their day and they're not hungry. And they're like, and then the next day they see 4 pounds off the scale. And it's like, well, great. I'm just going to repeat this. I wasn't hungry. I don't have to stop and eat. I can just go about my day. I have more time. But the problem is half of that was muscle. And so again, I just told you it's calorically expensive. Well, what happens is they lose, and they've done studies, they lose as half the amount of that is almost muscle tissue. So if you lose 30 pounds and you lost 15 pounds of muscle and 15 pounds of fat, great. Your scale definitely says 30 pounds down, but you really only lost 15 pounds of fat. Now your skin's going to be sagging because it's not tight on the muscle tissue. You're going to look ragged, which they then show pictures on Facebook and say, look at this star. They look terrible. Their skin's sagging. They didn't do it right. But only that, when you come off the medication, you don't have good habits with less muscle tissue on your body, and you go back to eating the same junky diet, all that fat comes back and then some because you have less BMI, you have less, not BMI, but you have less of a basal metabolic rate, BMR, sorry. And so as you eat that junk again, you don't have that muscle, this 15 pounds of muscle you had at one time just to burn it sitting there. So now it becomes more fat. So then they run and say, well, these don't work. These are bad. These don't work. Well, that's the problem. And, a lot of times when they get it, they aren't told. They're like, here's this medication. It'll help your A1C. It'll lose some weight. They aren't told you better hit the gym. And here's why. They're not given that education. They're not told they better change their eating habits. And the thing is, you don't crave sugar on these. You don't crave junk really. So it's a great time to start make yourself a plate of 2 eggs and have some oatmeal. These little things, you might not be hungry for it, but trust me, your body's going to process it now because it's working. They're used to every little bit of food they put in their body, they gain weight or feel puffy. Well, now the processes are working again, right? So you got to give it fuel. You got to give it food. That is really why they've got a bad rap. And if someone is just listening to the media to get their news, which a lot of people do,
which happens a lot.
I would argue is the furthest place you should listen. But then you're going to be fearful and you're going to have those fears, but it's because of the general public doing it that way. You come to our clinic, you're going to have an hour-long appointment. First and foremost, we're going to talk to you about getting some strength training
changes.
Don't have to be a bodybuilder. We're not trying to make you a bodybuilder, but we are going to talk to you about some strength training. You can do a class if you want. We don't care. It doesn't have. You can go do CrossFit, do a class. You don't have to go to the gym on your own if that's not your thing. We're going to get you moving. We're going to talk to you about movement, tracking 10,000 steps a day, and we're going to talk to you about getting protein in at least 1 gram per pound, and trying to make new changes and use this as a catapult into a better lifestyle. Because here's the thing. If you don't adjust your lifestyle, this thing might work for a while and then it's going to stop. And then what happens is they up the dose. It'll work for a while. They up the dose. Before you know it, I'll have people come to me. They're on 15 mgs of semaglutide, which, I mean, if you went and took that right now, you'd be a mess. You'd be nauseous. You'd probably get diarrhea. But their body has grown accustomed to it.
To the dose.
And then they can't eat at all. And they might have peristaltic, like the issues with your movement in your stomach, peristalsis and different things, comes to a crawl. And this is when you hear people going to the ER and they don't have any movement left in their gut. But that's if you can abuse anything. I mean, if I drank 5 gallons of water, I could die.
Yeah.
My electrolytes get so far off, right? I mean, you can get prison drunk. That's how they do it. So, is it the medication or is it the abuse and the lack of education? And so if you come to our clinic, we're going to give you that education. And the reason we give that education is because we're not trying to keep you on this forever. Now, there are some people in their 60s, 50s that have just horrific A1C, partly genetic. They might do well with a microdose, but we might work it up to get the fat down, get everything metabolic. And then as you got good habits, now we can work it back down to a very small dose. It isn't going to kill the pocketbook, and it's going to keep that process working really well. But a lot of people should be able to get right back off of it, but not if they don't have good habits. And when they come off that mega dose, the hunger goes
spikes.
And if you're not already eating 2,000 calories or worked your food up back up, you're gonna have a problem. So that's where it's good to have the education and a team behind you, because we'll say, fine, it's okay to eat maybe 1,500 calories as a female to use this right now, but we would love to see you get up to 2,000 as we taper this down. We're going to taper this medication down. Let's get your food back up. Your body's a different machine now. Now you're working out. Now you're moving. You can handle that food. I know in the past you couldn't, but you have to understand now you can, because all these processes are now improved. And we're going to get that food up. So when we start to remove that, the hunger isn't there. So now you're not reaching for crap. you're reaching for fruit. You're reaching
Mm-hmm.
for veggies. You're reaching for lean meats. You're reaching for eggs. You're reaching for oats, sweet potatoes, rice, all these things that fuel you because you realize now how this can work. So that's the education that needs to get out there. And that's what we do, well at the clinic.
Facts,
Yeah.
for sure. So to put a tie on everything, these things are meant to help you metabolically improve when it really comes down to it.
Yep.
And they're not meant to be on your whole life. Not meant to jack
But you could always go back on too.
Sure.
Like if you need to,
can cycle.
there's people who just from genetic predisposition, they might see their A1C start to rise back up. Could always put it back in play. But a break, I believe a break on any medication is
necessary.
The principles of hormesis just kind of almost dictate that over time your body's going to get used to it, and those peptide pathways can be downregulated. So even with like our other peptides, we usually go like 12 weeks on, 12 off, or 8 on, 4 off. And it only takes about 4 weeks in most literature to reset the pathways.
Yeah.
So, there's clients that I have who have autoimmune conditions, and we didn't even talk about that. It might be another time, but these help with a lot of immune conditions because autoimmune is stress, it's inflammation, and it's leaky gut. So you take out that inflammation piece, get them eating better, their autoimmune condition improves. But we still cycle on and off to get that pathway back up. But once you've got everything calm, you can do that. Pull off for 4 weeks. It's enough to recycle, and then you can go back on if it's something that you need in a long-term care. But yeah, I mean, we try to get either down to a very much microdose or come off
completely.
And you can come off into something like a metformin, whereas metformin isn't going to be like a fat oxidizer and really push like a GLP-1 peptide will. But once you've reset that insulin sensitivity, it'll help hold it in place. So you can try those too if you're someone who just type 2s in your family and it's like always just starting to come back up. You can bridge with like a metformin and things like that too.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, I think we got a good amount of information for today. Definitely, like I said, just hearing you talk at the retreat was mind-changing for me. So a lot of good information. We got a lot of rabbit holes certainly to dive down in future episodes, but I think this is a good place to start.
Awesome.
Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.
Till next time.